Welcome back to Tabletop Necromancy. I'm Jesse, the Tabletop Necromancer. Gamer Actual is ducking me. He's trying to avoid this torture I'm going to subject him to. I got a fix for that. Put that away. You won't need that here.
But I was... How did...
I have resurrected a game. We are playing it. Let's see what I got here. What do we got? It's a...
Hey, something big.
It's a little itty-bitty version of something big. Isn't that fun? I also have a suggestion for Fantasy Flight Games. Possibility for...
A Rebel something big.
Rebel something big, yes. So, the game I've brought back from the dead is Wizards of the Coast, Star Wars Miniatures, Starship Battles. Like, the game is risen. I don't need to wear this anymore. I can get comfortable.
Yeah, it's the Imperials. Die, rebel scum. Glory to the Emperor.
Have fun while you can, because this game is pretty awful. All right, so this game released November 2006. It had a starter box. It had a booster pack. Now the starter box consisted of these two things in every one.
So these two.
Yes, those
that was
two.
the starter box.
And every starter box. This wasn't the random.
This was the starter box. Fantasy Flight. This was the starter box.
Yes, so you had those two. You had 8 randoms, because you know how Wizards of the Coast likes to deal with surprise mechanics.
Card packs.
You had a game mat. You had a D20, the rule book, and some other the cards for the ships, and then some things they called command cards, but they're not cards because they're actually paper. And then the booster pack contained 7 randoms.
Interesting.
So, should we see what kind of randoms? Yeah, we got here. Let's see. Let's start with the Rebel. They didn't have Rebels Empire. It was Dark Side, Light Side. So, Light Side. So, of course, typical Rebels. You got the Millennium Falcon. You got something not quite that big, but, still big. You have the... Assault Frigate Mark 1.
There's a Mark 1?
There's a Mark 1. I know. We got the Mark 2 in Armada, but
how come there isn't a Mark 1 in Armada?
I don't know. Good question for Fantasy Flight Games. So, of course, Nebulan B, and Rebel Transport, X-Wing. We got the CR-90, Tantive 4.
I'm noticing something here.
Yeah, scaling was kind of... thrown out the window for this game. So they did have it set up, spread out in like 4 classes of ships. So this was considered a class 1, these 2, and those were the only class 1s. And then this was considered a class 2. Yeah, and then you had a class 3, like the Millennium Falcon, and then class 4 are your fighters. The scaling still is off, even if you break them apart into those classes, but look, Wizards was trying to... They had the intellectual property, and they knew the clock was ticking. They were getting a game out the door. And so, now, I don't have it in the Rules of Engagement games, 19 Park Lane, Havelock. We don't have it in the system anymore, so I can't tell you what the original retail price is. But some of these things I went and looked up to see what eBay and other things are selling. And so the starter set, eBay, I was seeing $59.95. Another site called...
about the price of Armada starter.
Yeah, about. A little less. Well, Amazon, this is the kicker. Amazon has $99.99 for the starter set. Okay,
I would tend to lean towards more Amazon's pricing because, only War on Amazon's like $300 right now.
I found another site called Troll and what the hell is it? Troll and Toad. That was the cheapest I saw, $27.99. But I did see a little thing kind of down real small print said out of stock. So, yeah. The booster packs, eBay showing that there was a range on eBay because, that's what they're asking, $29.99 to $36.26. Troll and Toad had it for $32.99. Again, though, out of stock. Amazon had $39.73.
Now, what came in the booster packs?
Just 7 randoms and their cards.
It's not bad, though. You get 7 ships and...
Yeah, I think $25.95 was the retail price for the starter pack, $15.95 for the booster pack, but that's just based on Wizards of the Coast products of about the same size box with the same amount of minis in them.
Huh. Cool.
So this material is, I mean, the bigger ships, the material is actually nice. It's a good hard plastic, rubberized. It's pretty good. The medium-sized ships, yeah, it's some weird rubberized that a lot of them are drooping. So let's get into the other weird thing about this whole. I said the light side and dark side. So we're looking at, we got Rebels here. We can go off to the side. Rebels here. The light side also included Republic. So this is interesting thing about the game. You can have Anakin Skywalker flying an Eta Interceptor, yeah, and then you can have Luke Skywalker flying alongside him in his X-wing. So, and then have a Republic cruiser flying alongside him on Calamari cruiser. Yeah.
Why?
See, I tell you, sometimes some games there's a reason why they're dead.
Why are you making me play this again?
Because I like torturing you.
Dun, 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 dun. Oh, look, Admiral. Rebel scum. Where'd they go?
All right, let's get into some of the dark side ships we have. Some of the, because it's not just
Magic
Empire. It's dark side versus light side. So, of course, from the Empire, we got a Star Destroyer.
Something not so big.
Yeah, again, this material, it's weird. There's a shuttle. You got TIE fighters. You got.
It looks kind of worse for wear.
I said this. I don't know what material they use, but it was a problem. I mean, they were coming out of the packs like this.
Fantasy Flight 1.
Yes, that definitely reasons why it died. We got
like Armada.
We got a ship that was once Empire, but now it's just scum. At least for X-wing. And this being it's the dark side, we also have Separatists.
Ooh.
And some of the material didn't survive time very well, but hey, that happens.
Aww.
Got some droid fighters in here somewhere. Let's see. There's a droid fighter. The next ship coming from Fantasy Flight Games for X-Wing, the Nantech fighter. Palpatine himself in his weird shuttle.
Really? That's actually kind of cool.
A ship that I think looks hideous, but a lot of people say, are fans of it, but the Virago.
Prince Shizor. Oh, wait, that's not canon anymore.
Yeah. And also got the cards here, too. Some of the cards for these ships. So, now, this is a D20 game. You roll a D20, you take your shots, you roll a D20 to see if you actually hit the armor class of what you're shooting at. And one of the biggest complaints on the rules is how the game kind of doesn't have a range. Okay, well, when you take damage, you start out with the one side up, and when you take damage, it turns and things are all less. Except for, fighters, they just die. They don't have a second side to them, so.
This has a second side.
It's not a fighter. I know it's a fighter in X-Wing, but that is a Class 3 ship in this game.
So confused.
Yes, so there's a fighter. Just says destroy. Okay. Now, a lot of complaints to Class 1 through 3 ships. So all the non-fighters, they really didn't have a range. They shot across the table.
Table.
Yes, table. From back edge of the table to the other back edge of the table. A range Class 1 through 3 ship could shoot another Class 1 through 3 ship across the table. The only thing that had a range restriction were the fighters. They can only shoot at and be shot at by something they were adjacent to, 1 square away. So that brings up. Let's pull out the game mat. Where's the game mat? I got it around here somewhere. Some of the power of the spirit of West End Games.
Where did they go? It's okay, something big. I have you.
Well, let's see what came in the starter set to play on. Yeah, see, nice, big black. Yeah, that takes up 4 squares. Yeah, 2 by 2.
It's a grid.
It's a grid, and it's double-sided. We have another planet.
But it's the same.
It's
not like. But
yeah, this is what you played on. Mm-hmm. Yep, big open grid, and like I said, no range. So from there.
What?
To
Okay,
there,
so what about?
They shoot at each other.
But wasn't there debris you put out?
Nope, no, there was no debris.
What about
Yeah,
asteroids?
see, that's it. There's a reason some games die.
Space stations.
So they kind of use the rules of like the Star Wars minis, ground-based type minis, the individual Priestess minis in their
Please
old.
don't tell me you're going to make me suffer.
I actually don't have that. If somebody comes up with that and can, bring us a set, I might. I can try. But they used the same rules, and they really didn't have a range in that game. But they had terrain, they had line of sight issues. They just kind of just slapped the same rule set onto this, which, well, this is space. There's no line of sight issues in space. You just shoot across the table at each other.
No.
Yeah.
I don't like this.
So here's what we're gonna do next. You're gonna pick a side. I take it you're gonna pick dark side, and I'm gonna hand you all the cards to these ships, and they have their point values on there, and we're gonna come up with the typical 300-point game. That's what's the typical game, 300 point. I believe this is 150 points. So yeah, there's half your list right there. If you choose to use that, that's fine.
Of course, I'm using that.
All right, let's end this segment, and before we get into the gameplay, because that's going to be a separate episode. So please come back and watch how I
comment,
torture
subscribe.
Gamer Actual with this. I'm going to leave with a quote here. I found a comment thread. It originally was on Board Game Geek, but the originator deleted it. I can't figure out who the originator was. I found it on a different site called Superfly Circuits. But all right, here's my quote. I did paraphrase slightly. All right. Wizards of the Coast has lost the license. I am sure this craptastic abortion of a product has something to do with this inciting the rage against Wizards of the Coast from making such a horrible rule set for a game that could have been exceptional. I want my $60 back, and I want an apology from Wizards of the Coast for doing what they've done to this game, HeroScape, and pretty much anything else they set their retarded hands on.
Magic the Gathering?
Well, that was always Wizards from the very beginning. It wasn't something they acquired. It wasn't a license they acquired and started cranking out what they could. But, all right, so that concludes our discussion about this game I've risen from the dead. Join us again next time. I'm going to make Dan play this game.